We were taught for so long to be full of strength, and I think that this has been predicated along lines of having some weakness, but it's something that I've had to recently struggle with as a result of a lot of stress. If you watch my blog, it pretty much explains the last 6 years of my life. And I really wanted to talk about this because even in certain conversations with people, I'm hearing it over and over again. If you know about me, you know about my blogs. I don't do them unless I'm really motivated, unless it's something that constantly touches my heart. And it's something that I really get an urge to do a blog on because I feel like that's when God kind of gets on me through the confirmation of the confidence and just in-depth conversations to awaken my eyes to know that I'm not the only one. So what I wanted to talk about was really this blog, anxiety attack or panic attacks, and depression, and what I call mental suicide. I believe mental suicide is more so when we have those thoughts. I personally have just started dealing with anxiety attacks, and to take it back a little bit, about a year ago, a friend of mine told me that he had to be carried out of a place that he just kind of chills and goes to relax because his body got paralyzed from hitting a situation that was similar to the one that he hit the year previous. And so his body took on that same amount of, that his body paralyzed him because it took on that reminder of stress, so he had a trigger. And within that, I remember being like, really, that's a little dramatic, and, really turned my nose up at it to about, let's say, maybe about 4 months ago when I got a call that my grandmother had breast cancer. Now, my mother died of pancreatic cancer in '07. So my mind didn't go, it's going to be okay, all that good stuff. My mind went, cancer, mom, death, cancer plus relative equals death, grandma, cancer, death. And I remember hitting the floor in my apartment, just crying. And what I explain to people is that, just like my dogs kind of act crazy when it rains, I can't explain to them, it's just rain, it's just thunder, it's going to go away, it's not going to hurt you. They just start shaking and follow me around the house, and they're terrified, and they're trying to burrow into the carpet. So that's pretty much what my body goes into. Now, my mind can be logical, and it can say it's going to be okay, call her, see what happens, see how this goes. But the initial reaction is not that easy, because initially, my body, I'm not going to talk about anybody else's body, I'm not a doctor, my body just reacts to whatever I'm hearing, which is, for me, a trigger. And I remember him once I hit the floor, I was there for a while. I don't even remember the time span of all of this. I finally was able to get off the floor, and I hit my bed. And in my bed is when my body got paralyzed. I remember that I couldn't do anything but really blink and text and talk slightly. And I actually called the friend that had the similar situation, and I couldn't explain to him. I just said, I need you to come over, and he said, I have company, da-da-da-da-da, and I was just like, I couldn't move, I couldn't function mentally, emotionally, any of that enough to say, this is why I need you to come. I just kind of hung up the phone, and I remember texting a message to Facebook and said, I need someone to come over here now. I didn't give a shit at that point who came. All I knew is I really just was laying there, and like I said, the amount of time even went. I don't even know how long all of this had occurred, and that I think I was in bed at least for a good 20 minutes. And all I knew was I had to get up and unlock the door. I'm telling somebody to come over, like I had to get up and unlock the door. Once I kind of snapped out of that again, I remember going to my front door, unlocking it, and laying on my couch, and again being paralyzed. And I remember trying to have this conversation. My phone rang. 2 beautiful women called me. I love you all to death. And really prayed me out of it because I went to being paralyzed again. And I remember trying to explain to them why this was occurring. And I just, certain words like, grandma, breast cancer, mom, death. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just couldn't get it out. So once they kind of prayed me back to sanity, a friend of mine called me, whom I love to death, who will always love you for this. He's like, where are you? I saw your message. Where are you? You know, how do I get there? And I kind of told him, like, the door's open. I'm glad the gate was broken that day. I didn't have to do any gate codes. And I remember after I got off the phone with my lovely sisters in God, I hung up the phone and I just laid there. And I laid there till he got there. And he sat with me and he just sat there. And till I could kind of move again. And I cried and I just couldn't get out of that. And then he was like, did you eat? So, you know, we got some food and he stayed until I was able to kind of function on my own again. And I thought, you know, that was just that moment. I ended up hearing some news maybe about, let's say that was 4 months ago, about a week ago, that reminded me of, within that 6 years, let me just break it down, my mother passed, my sister betrayed me heavily. She's also using my nephew as a pawn to hurt me now to this very day and not letting me see him. I sold one of my favorite possessions, which was my Lexus that was paid off, to keep a business open that I started with my sister that she left me to handle on my own because she got scared. And I really feel like that was another death because that relationship is ended. I haven't seen my nephew over a year. My ex cheated, and as the other blog said, he cheated, and I found out because he gave me an STD, curable, but an STD nonetheless. That was terrifying because I didn't think anything was wrong with my body. Because we just went to the doctor 3 months ago. He was living with me. You know, you get into all of the ramifications of just the one cheating on you in itself. But then once we tried to work it out, he ended up having a baby with a 17-year-old girl. Processing that, losing the salon, and so all of those things just happen over time. So anything that reminds me of those 6 years, anything other than my body, I've learned my body just kind of goes into shock. And what happens is it's almost like saying, let me stop you from moving, because if you move, you may encounter more stress than we can handle. We've hit our peak. You are on full right now. If anything else occurs, we're going to have a major, major problem. And I remember having another attack inside Lenox Mall and trying to handle not being so dramatic, as people called it, but knowing that no one around me would understand that it had nothing to do with that particular moment. My body was reacting to reliving another situation out of those 6 years. And so, in talking to my girlfriends and talking to other people, I was like, no one is getting what I'm saying. And I felt very alone because people were like, you're overreacting. I'm like, I'm not reacting to that. My body is like my dogs in the rain. I can't explain to my body that it's just this, or it's just that, or it's not that big of a deal. My body doesn't process it like my mind can. My mind can process it, but I also can't trigger my mind to stop my body before it reacts. So it was just like this moment where I felt really, really alone. In processing the next few days, I remember laying on my couch. I woke up to Joyce Myers, of all people. I love her to death. And in processing her morning word, I also have her book, which is Battlefield of the Mind. And I look, I'm reading, and it correlated, just happened to correlate that day with her message. And in reading, and I felt like this is what, I feel like that's what happened. I got out of my constant routine of 8:30 in the morning, watching her, getting up and going about my day. I got out of a constant opening my Bible and really getting into the Word, and I felt more centered, more grounded, because I truly, truly believe that when it says lean not on your own understanding. And so within leaning on my own understanding, a lot of those situations just kind of attack me a lot harder. And when you're going through something that serious, you also sit there and you process what, again, mental suicide. And I feel like you're under attack way more when you're at that state, when you've gone through all of those things, when, it's not, when we say it's not one thing, it's another. When you go from having to handle one thing and then taking a break, and then you have this long period of healing, you can get through that. But when you have one thing happen and another thing happen, it's like being stabbed in your liver, and you're like, okay, this hurts, let me get over this. And as soon as you maybe 2 days in, and you're like, okay, I feel a little bit, I can do this, you get stabbed in your lungs. You can't handle a lot of times the one after another. Time does heal all wounds. However, if those wounds are followed by another and another and another, you get weaker and weaker and weaker. And so I was, once I had that morning and I got back into the Word, I was like, this is probably what happened. I got myself out of the Word, I got myself into my own understanding, and I stopped being able to kind of block the point of attack, because before any of that would occur, my mind would just go and go and go, and not even per se just how my body reacts, but getting to a point of being depressed to a point of what I call it again, mental suicide, of hearing a voice just tell you it'd be easier if you go home and just see your mom. Like, you don't have to deal with the stress, you don't have to deal with the things that constantly are coming at you. It's just easier to end it. And then having a conversation again with a friend that had the initial attack that introduced me to this. Of course, I think I owe him an apology now because I didn't take it that seriously at the time. But I remember telling him I have to believe, and I truly do believe, that the other side of this has to be amazing, because why would the devil try to take you out so hard if you didn't have a glory day for God coming, and if you weren't going to pull other people in? It's easy to kill the leader off, because if that leader's gone, so many other people fall to the wayside. If you ever had a matriarch of your family die, like my mother, the rest of the family just dissipated because she was the glue. So once you take away, once the devil, if he can take out the leader, it's all the rap. It's easy after that. The thousands or hundreds or whatever amount of people that would come through that person and that they would lift up and they would give glory to God for, you take out that one, that's a wrap for everybody. And so in telling him that, of course, I have to believe it myself. And it's hard because I'm a human at the same time. I'm a Christian, but I'm a human. And that human side of you can get to you. And again, back to saying lean not on your own understanding. But after that morning, it was that afternoon, I was at work and we had a meal together. Somebody pulled me to the side and said, I want to talk to you. And I heard a little voice that said, just don't be scared, talk to you. And that person began to express to me that they had the same thing going on, because I tried to call off of work and get someone to work for me, and I said, I'm having anxiety attack, I need somebody to work for me. And that person came and they said, you had the same thing happen, and I haven't had one in a long time, and I do remember them mentioning that they did have one. And I told them the same thing. I said, the toughest part is going through something rough, knowing that the other side is over here, and being human in between. That's the hardest part. And I said, it's funny that, as he was telling me, I said, where you have one side of a voice saying, don't be scared, go talk to her, that being the positive creatures, the positive spirits, and do you have that other side of it that he was saying, was pretty much whispering the same thing in his ears that they whispered in mine. It's just easier to end it. It doesn't have to be as hard. You could just go. You could just cut everything short and just go. And while, I think it's easy to say getting God, but unfortunately, I think when you've gone through all of that over and over and over again, it's okay to seek mental help, but if that's not available to you, I can definitely say, and I told him the same thing, I said the one thing I felt like helped me out was that I took myself out of God. And on a regular, not took myself out of God, but on a regular constant basis, seeking his word to filter and to block and to stop all of the negativity that was coming at me. At the same time, I can say as a separation, I can't say that if I was in that on a constant basis, that my body would not react to stress that way. I can't say that. I don't know that to be true. But I can say once my mind kind of got fixed back into that word, I felt a lot better. And I've been also getting back on my constant renewal of God and my constant renewal of the word, because when the devil starts to lie to you, you need to know how to really curse him out with the words that are in the Bible, with your filter, with your kind of your block, your shield, your big ball of protection. Then you need to know how to be like, you know what? I know what I'm hearing. But it was very interesting to me, because at the same time he was saying that he was hearing that little voice say, go to her, speak to her, don't be scared. He also had those voices, the other side of the voices saying, end it. So where we are so quick to believe and easily accepting that there are angels and good spirits and protection, you have to also open your eyes to the fact that there are other sides of things. There are demons, there are, dark spirits, dark forces that are there to really destroy you. And like I said, the hardest part is when you're going through something to your glory day, being human in between. That's the hardest part. But in addition to lay over being human, you got to remember that, well, if you are, or whatever you believe, the word of whatever your God may be, and to hold fast to that and between that. Because it's a hard struggle. It's hard to believe in. The part of the book that I was in was the story of Abraham and how he really, was believing God for all of these things, and he was way past the childbearing age, and, how am I going to generate nations? I'm old, she's old, how is this going to happen? And then at the end of it, his belief and really what the word was, the word that God gave him, got him through. And in the meantime, it really is hard to not do what you want to do as a human and to really believe God for the things that he promised you. And so I really wanted to talk about this because I think that I've been in at least 4 conversations as of recent to take back, 4 conversations as of recent that reflected this to not be just true for myself, but to be true for others. And also I see, I encountered the same reaction that I had to my friend from someone else to me, which was basically like, that's really a lot. That's kind of dramatic right now. And I think when you don't have an understanding or you've never been through it, the judgment of what's occurring can happen. And so when I went through it, I was really like, this is real. Like, I didn't think it was this serious, but it happened to me too. And so, if anybody's really, really dealing with something like that, or if it's happening to you, and like I said, the second time it happened, I felt alone because nobody understood what I was going through. Everybody just really was like, oh, I think you're overreacting. I think you're really dramatic. I'm like, this is way bigger than just, I'm not a drama queen. Like, you really can't get a lot of emotional reaction out of me. But that was, and I think I didn't hit the floor. I didn't get paralyzed. I think I handled it quite well. But I also had to recognize that it's an issue that I'm trying to handle, and that is also something else that someone else is going through. And and just the discussion with him, he did feel better, but I was happy that I at least got to a place where that I understood what he was going through, because there's nothing worse than going through something and having nobody to talk to. I think that's one of the roughest things, are feeling as if you have no one to talk to. And if you are talking to people who have never been through it, they don't receive you well, and they perceive you in a way that may make you feel worse. And I know that that's what I encountered, and so it was even therapeutic to me to talk to him, because we had a conversation that really allowed me to feel like, okay, I'm not alone. Even though I was somewhat out of that moment, I was happy that at least I had something to say that was real and from a really true and honest place, and that, in hindsight, I could look back and say that, my friend who didn't call me when he went through his thing, which is fine, but, I had a better understanding of what had occurred. So I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to also say I think mental suicide is something that happens more often. We don't talk about it. We do get down, we do get out, and these are thoughts that we have, but at the same time, I'll to buy the gun or to get the pills or to do whatever on the sun, or some people try to do it slowly and their habits change and they're more risky and they're doing more things to really end their life, but not so quick or so direct as maybe a gun to their mouth or anything crazy like that. But it is hard to be human, and it is hard to constantly go when you know that, when I say you're not of this earth, you're not made of the things that make people evil and do wrong, and you're not that person that does people dirty, and you have your integrity and you have your loyalty. You are a minority, and most of the time you're going to be surrounded by the majority who is not as strong in their morals as you are, and you constantly are dealing with these people, and that's not, and not going to say it's not fair, but it can wear you out. And so just in all of that, left, right, up, down, all of that, what I just wanted to do this because I feel like there's so many people that may be going through this and may feel like they're alone, and may not have anybody to talk to, may feel like it's just them, and it's not. I hope I don't have to ever experience it again, but since I did experience it, I do want to let anybody watching this, or anybody that you may know who's talked to you about this recently, get the video, put it on their Facebook, send it to their Twitter, send it to their email, whatever, but please let them know they're not alone. And one thing that I can say over and over and over again is that I felt a lot more grounded once I put myself back in a constant word every day. I mean, literally before I left the bed, turning on the television, watching something that was going to get my mind together for the day, reading something that was going to keep my mind together for the day, not taking in chaos that was going to obstruct my mind for the day through my eyes or through my ears or through my surroundings. You stand around people who fuss, that even adds to, the level and the balances in your spirit and in your soul. So I think just all of that is very important. So, bye. Love you guys. And going out for a good friend's birthday. Celebrate life. Enjoy myself. Bye, everybody.